What?
Oh, no, I'm racing.
Are you going? They almost didn't call it. They almost didn't have it.
It's not there.
We're gonna
Go ahead and start it again.
Her microphone's not working.
It's a little noisy out in the hallway, but I'm not sure we have to do much
Their
about
microphone's
that.
working.
So, we're just gonna go ahead and move on and we'll just take us a little bit. Up next, we have,
They only have 25 or something.
there's that better.
Correct.
So like, we don't have a volume control on this anymore.
Well, apparently.
Thank you for assisting, I always appreciate that.
Go through.
Up next, we have a special presentation on a newly developed community budget guide. And Assistant Superintendent for Finance is going to walk us through that. Ms. Davis.
Good evening, everyone. So this community budget guide has been months in the making, and so we're very excited to be able to share that glimpse of it this evening with you. Each of your board members, you have a colored copy of the packet. So we're just going to spend just a couple minutes here going through the why behind the budget guide and kind of maybe some highlights of what might be in it. So as we step back, we were thinking of how can we help educate our community on the basics of how a school district is funded and then how we spend our funds. It's a pretty complicated process and how we're funded, so we thought this was a good opportunity to share with them how that works and then how do we spend our funds. You know, we often hear about spending funds in this area, that area. How much do you spend at the elementary level? How much do you spend maybe at the middle school level? How much do you spend on some of these awesome staff that we just heard about this evening? So that's part of what is included in this budget guide. It contains both current and historical information for our community. And the goal is to publish this on an annual basis. So we'll be updating it each year. And then we'll make sure that we have it available on our website for our community. All right, so what are some of the things that are inside our community budget guide, or because we like acronyms, our CBG? Some examples include, we have a message from our superintendent as well as our board president and treasurer. It also contains some budget basics. Some of our revenue sources, you know, we've talked before, we've reviewed our budget and our budget amendment. Some of those revenue sources, whether they're coming from the state, from the federal government, or some of our local partners like our own foundation. We talk about our expenses and the different types of categories. You know, as a school district, we have to follow what's called the state accounting manual and how we classify our expenditures. Sometimes some of those categories don't quite make sense. There's a category, for example, that's called central services. You might wonder, what is central services? And so this guide hopefully helps to explain a little bit of that. We include some comparisons to other districts. We like to do that. How do we trend with some of our counterparts, not only within our intermediate schools districts, which includes 20 local schools, but we also compare ourselves to similar districts that are in the greater area on the east side of the state. It includes some trends. Where are we trending? Where have we been? How much are we spending in the classroom and instructional purposes? We talk about our community support. I mentioned just a second ago about our local partner and our foundation. They're really important to us. So are our PTO and booster groups. So there's some information on all of those community supports that we have. There's a section on our capital projects. So Dr. Gutierrez opened up and talked about this beautiful building and how it was supported with our 2018 bond. We're also thankful for the support in our 2023 bond that was approved back in November. So our capital projects section, we'll talk about those and some of the projects that we have completed and then what's on tap. And then there's a glossary of terms. There is a lot of terminology that those of us who are inside the industry use all the time, and those who are not, they don't know what we're talking about, right? And we just take that for granted. So hopefully this glossary of terms will help that as well. And one of the things that we're going to do after this first issue is really get some community feedback to know that what does the second issue look like? What are some other things that our community would like to know about the school district's budget? And we can hopefully add some of those things in future issues. All right, so here are just a couple snippets. The next two slides, that's all I have is two more, are just pages that I pulled out from the community guides. You can see Our revenue sources for 2022, 2023, yes, that was last year. We're using our audited financial information because we thought that was really important for the community. So these are actuals, again, that were audited by our audit firm, Maynard Steerson. And then we like to do pictures too. So not only talking about it, but then showing a picture graph because sometimes that speaks a lot louder. Our expenditures, how much are we spending on elementary, middle, and high school, and some other instruction, safety and security, transportation. So this is just gives our community an overall guide of how we're spending the money that we bring in every year. And then I spoke about like districts. So here's one of the pages that's on comparing us to like districts. I know it's kind of hard to see here. It'll look better online, trust me. But just some comparisons on revenue with us and our counterparts within the Kent Intermediate School District, how we fare, as well as our counterparts, our like districts that most of them are on the east side of the state. And the last image I put up here is just our community support. We talk about our community and their support of our capital projects, right? And the passing of our bonds since the inception of the district. You know, as we were packing up to come over here, I found this incredible document that I didn't know existed until I had to start going through things and packing. And it was really cool. So my goal is someday is to add new stuff to it because it was a history of bond proposals from the inception of Forest Hills Public Schools. So it was pretty neat. So I'll work on that. But long-standing support by our community for our capital projects that we do to make sure our buildings are in the best shape that they can be for our students in their learning. And then, of course, we have a recreation millage that was renewed a couple of years ago, our foundation and our parent-teacher organizations. So just a couple snippets of what you can expect to find in our community budget guide. And like I said, this is our first inaugural issue. And we hope to update that each year. And again, looking for feedback if we get this posted for our community, because we want it to be a useful resource for them so they can understand, you know, some of the things that we have to do. And I won't call it accounting jargon because there's not a lot of accounting jargon, but it's education accounting jargon. So it's important that our community understand how our money flows in and then how it's flowing out as well. Any questions?
No, but Julie, you and your team did a fantastic job. This is beautiful and really informative.
Thank you.
Things I already don't know, I see in here, and that's great.
Yeah, I was just, this is incredibly impressive, and I love a good chart, so I'll be good for a little while. And I hope the community takes advantage of pouring over this, because this is a lot of information that, if you're not in education on a regular basis, understanding where school money comes from and where it's allowed to go is really complicated. And it's just not like a normal household budget. So I think this is incredibly helpful and very informative and just really laid out so well. Thank you.
And just from the historical perspective, we've done videos, we've done forums, we've done meetings, and it's so nice that it's all in one place and not piecemeal, and it's always going to be available for people to look back at. So thank you for putting all your work and time into this. It's great.
Can I ask how the community can give feedback?
Sure, that's a great question. I was thinking about it as I was sitting here. So when we post it online, we will put that information out there. My sense without talking to Elizabeth first is maybe we'll just list our contact FHPS email address, and then it can be get to the right person.
Thank you. I know this was a ton of work on top of all the regular work you already do. One other question is, so you're planning on updating it each year, but I know we're in sort of a weird part of the year for this to be coming out. When would you typically expect to be updating it?
Yeah, still kind of working through that. So this first time period, thanks, Dr. Fawson, this first time period might be a little bit more than 12 months because we want to find what that right cycle is, and it might be after we close our fiscal year, so that, you know, we saw the page where it showed our 2022, 23 information there. You know, we might want to make sure that that's our audited, so that people know it is approved by our.
So the first, or the second one might be 18 months instead of a 12-month cycle, but we talked about that a lot, and it really with the input of having the current data to be able to share. And then also having it electronical out as to have all of the links to the different sites that we work off of from Michigan Department of Education. And, so we'll have a couple, hard copies in the building for people to peruse if they'd like, but mostly accessing it online will give them the ability to look at, when we talk about Bulletin 1014, and we use that term a lot when we're comparing numbers with districts around the state, you can click right on there and you can follow where Forest Hills falls in comparison to the state. So you can see where we gather our information. And so we really do think it's value added and hope that it'll help you as you try to explain the differences in our funding sources that are really important for our community.